Hi, I'm Dale from Glenarley Pipes. I want to do this video, follow up on the bass drain one I did earlier. I've been asked if blending out the step between the chamber relief and the actual bore will make a difference to the sound. So what the question basically is, this is a tenor, but same sort of thing. So we've got the Tenon relief bore diameter, and then we've got the actual native bore diameter of the pipe, the finished bore diameter of the pipe, and where they meet there's a step. And I've been asked if you get rid of that, does it make a difference? Now on the tenons, most tenons, a lot of them won't make any difference. If it's a silvered set, there'll be quite a big step there, and silvered sets are, you know, they do create problems by having such a large, well, they do create differences, having such a large difference between the two, but normal wooden tenon, wooden set doesn't make much difference, but on the bass it does. So here's a typical midsection of the bass. Now I'm only using the midsection because I don't want to add a variable by putting the top section on it. Whatever difference there is from one to the other, you should be able to tell. So this one doesn't have the step, and this one still has the step. This one hasn't been hasn't had the step machined out, hasn't had it blended, whereas the other one has. So how we do that is we do it with what's called a D-bit, and we just make these up to suit. So we'll decide when we refurb pipes or redress pipes, we want to make sure that all of the bores, the tenon bores, are parallel all the way up for the entire length. So when you slide your tenon up and down, there's no tight spots or loose spots, so they're perfectly parallel all the way up. So, and then you can, when you hem it, you'll hem it and you'll get it nice and even. So that's the reason we do it, and we do it to all our pipes generally. And people ask not to, that's fine, but that's what we normally do. And having that taper, it also helps when you push the cutter in, it gives it a nice lead in to go in. So that's what we use. They're called D-bits, and I say we make them up for all the pipes, and just make them up for whatever size we want. Just turn them up whatever size we want. The cutting edge is right on that little point there, and that taper is what cuts that nice angle. It cuts that lead and angle. So I do it with a pressure gauge because I want all the readings to be consistent, and I'll do it on a tuner. So what I do is I test it at a pressure, at a pitch, and then we'll see if there's a difference between them. So in this one here, now I'm using a particular reed on this one. It varies a lot, as with shown in the other demonstrations. The reeds can make a big difference. So I'm using quite a robust bass reed in this, so that the difference is quite clear. If I use a more mellow one, it's not as easy to hear the difference. So I'm going to use this robust one, and we'll see how we go. So I'm running at a 30-inch pressure, which is pretty average sort of a pressure, and I'm going to run up around about 478 hertz, which is native for a lot of chanters. So I'll try. These are identical, these are Hardys, so the pieces are absolutely identical. Now, one thing that did come out of this, on the gauge, when I'm blowing them, the one with a step, I get a little bit more needle. You can see slightly more vibration. It's a little bit harder to hold it exactly steady on the 30 because you get a bit of vibration. On the one where the step is blended, you don't get quite as much vibration. Now, I'm not sure how that relates to sound, but that's the one thing I notice physically that I notice when I do this test. Now, the other thing is that on the software, I won't go through it all for you now, but on the software, the one thing that we can see is up here, the one with the blending doesn't produce as much white noise. That is up the top there, that's where a lot of people would say the white noise is. That's that white noise you can hear, that, like sometimes that hissy noise you can hear with things, with some instruments and so on. So those overtones, those sort of high-end, edgy, higher overtones are not as prominent. Now, it's not a lot, but it's there. It's absolutely noticeable when you switch from one to the other. So what I would say is that, now, considering there's people out there that can hear, allegedly, can hear the difference between a copper reed staple and a brass reed staple. So, you know, that's quite the trick. Now, that being the case, they would definitely be able to hear that. Therefore, to them, if they like that cleaner sound, cleaner fundamental sound, rather than the more overtone sound, then it would definitely make a difference. The needle bounce is one thing that would sell me. I would now do that to all my pipes regardless, because the only thing that can cause that needle is pressure variation, which means the sound wave is bouncing back on itself. So that step is enough to cause enough interference with the flow or pressure that it can be picked up on the gauge. So that, irrespective of whether I could hear it or not, that would sell it to me, because it establishes that something's happening there. The other thing I did was I joined the two files together. So I had, with the taper, with the step, joined them together, and then I put it in a loop, and I got my boy to listen to it, and he's young enough to still have really good hearing, and he believed he could tell the difference. And to test him, I did with the taper and with the taper, and joined them together and got him to listen to it, and he was very, very consistent. He was adamant that he could hear the difference, and he picked it. So when I play the loop, he would tell me, that's one, that's the other, that's one, that's the other. So he could hear it. When I just joined the same one together, he couldn't. So there is something that he can hear. Now, I'm doing that on a fairly good audio system when I'm doing that. I'm not just doing it on YouTube with my little camera thing. I'm doing it on a proper setup. So the point is, does it make a difference? Well, the answer is clearly yes, it does make a difference. How much can we hear? Well, that's the subjective part. I don't know. All I can tell you is the software definitely picks it up, no question. My boy reckons he can hear the difference, and he's consistent, so I would have to say that there is something in it. But I'm doing this with a shortened bass, and that's only to take that other variable out. If I put the top end on it, I'm adding a variable. I just wanted to see if that made a difference irrespective, and because I'm using exactly the same type of pipe, and the only difference is the that taper or not, having that blend or not, it's consistent. So whether I have the end on it doesn't really matter. It proves that having that taper makes a difference. I just can't guarantee how much you could possibly hear with the ear, but based on what I saw of the gauge, I would definitely do it. Anyway, I hope that answers the question. Thanks for watching.